Hi there, Kevin Tharp here today, and today we're going to be looking at what could best be called a form follows function kind of lecture, where we're going to be looking at templates and PHP includes. Now, as I teach web development courses, there's different ways that people create templates, and it depends often upon the software that they use. So if you're using Dreamweaver, for instance, they have what's called Dreamweaver Templates, which is a built-in function of Dreamweaver that allows you to create a template and then later create files from that template that are linked to that template. And when you update the template, it goes and opens the other files that are linked to that and updates those. But that only works if you're using Dreamweaver. Other softwares such as Aptana Studio have functionality in them that allow you to create templates that live separate from your website that you can import in. But again, if you're not using that particular software, you lose access to the template. So what I'm trying to do in this particular lesson is separate the software from the idea of templates. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at PHP Includes and how to use PHP Includes to create a basic template that you can use to create your site, so that when you do things like update the navigation or update the footer or the header or whatever you choose to be an area that's common across your site, you can update it in one location and it's automatically updated in all your pages, because those pages are actually put together at runtime rather than the code being stored in each page. And you'll get to understand what I'm talking about as I go ahead. So to dive right into it, a little brief introduction to PHP. And in this case, I'm going to go to the W3 schools because frankly, they are a good source of information. And often I will go to W3 schools when I'm looking for, oh, how does that piece of code, how is it, what's the format of it, that kind of thing. They've got great ways of learning things, and you know, if you're wanting to learn more about PHP than I'm able to show you at this time, this is a good place to go and look, because there's a great deal of information. PHP is an extremely powerful script server, and so as it says here, PHP scripts are executed on the server. I'm not going to read you everything here. It's saying you should already know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. For the students in my class, we haven't touched JavaScript yet, but we're still going to be able to use PHP. So there's the meaning of it is it's basically PHP hypertext processor. That's what PHP stands for. And it is a scripting language. It allows you to pull in, well, to run scripts on a server, and that's the purpose of it. So normally the content in a PHP file is the same as in an HTML file, and I'll show you that, except that it can also use PHP code. And what can PHP code do? It can generate dynamic page content. It can create, open, write, delete, and close files on the server. It can collect form data, send and receive cookies, add, delete, modify data in your database, and it can be used to control user access, and it can encrypt data. So why are we going to be using PHP? In this case, we're going to be using it because we need to create a template that will allow us to put together a page at the time when the client requests that page from the server, and does so in a way that allows us to maintain specific content, such as the code for our navigation, in one location, and then send that to all the pages, so that it's actually put together when the client requests the page from the server. So your basic PHP page is identical to your basic HTML page, because it is actually an HTML page. The difference is that in an index.php or a PHP page, you're able to add this PHP code that calls a script to the server and asks the server to do certain things. Here I've got two pages, index.html and index.php, that have got the identical content in them. And as you'll notice over here, I've got them both available and up on my server. So when I come into this index.php, now you'll see that Dreamweaver says, hey, there's dynamic content in here that can only be discovered by the server. Well, when I come into the HTML, it just ignores that, because without that .php extension on the end, the server doesn't know that you're going to allow them to call those PHP. So it essentially is ignored when it is in an HTML document. So you'll need to make sure that when you're working with PHP, you have that .php extension in there. And just quickly, I'll pull up these two pages. Before that, I've done one thing. On the index.php, in my title, I put PHP lesson homepage. And in the HTML, I put HTML-PHP lesson homepage. So that's the only two differences between these two pages. So when I pull them up in my browser, what you see is here is the HTML version of it, and it just says my homepage. So what it's done is it has ignored that PHP code. So what you see there is the H1 for my homepage. And the other thing that you see is this horizontal rule, which is down here below the paragraph that contains the PHP code. Now when we go to the PHP homepage, you'll see that there's this extra content in there that says today is and then today's date in the format of year, month, and date. And over here you can see why that is there, because in this PHP file, the same exact code, but with the PHP code in there, what it does is it gives a command, which is, this is the format for opening a PHP call, and this is the closing part of that command. But what it's doing is saying echo, which just simply means to present on the page. So you echo it. Whatever you get back from the server, you echo onto the page. And then today is, and then the dot space date, and then the format that's there, and then closing the script. So that's the format that you've got to do. And when I pull up that page, that's what you see is today is, and then it's got the date. So we'll go into more about this as we go on in the next video, but that is the difference between HTML and PHP, or at least a beginning difference. And one of the crucial things to remember is that you need to use that .php when you're doing PHP pages.